me tell you about a friend. It's Craig LeBlanc where the good times never end. Talking Parks and Rec, it's a show you gotta know. Welcome one and all to the Daily Parks and Rec Show. It's the Daily Parks and Rec Show.
Entrepreneurs will crack the code on humanoid robots. The bounty is the biggest bounty on Earth. There is no larger bounty, the per capita part of the equation of a GDP. And so if the per person part of the equation is deleted due to humanoid robotics, then there is no larger reward for an entrepreneur. Welcome to the Daily Parks and Recreation Show. Today, we're bringing you the future of facility maintenance, from smart cities and IoT technology to robotic lawnmowers that take the grunt work out of park care. We'll dive into how these innovations are saving time, money, and resources, all while making our parks more sustainable. Get ready to learn how smart technology is changing the game in park management and keeping our communities thriving. Let's jump in.
We're good.
Yes. All right, we are live again with Joseph. This is Craig LeBlanc, the doorman for the facility maintenance 10:30 Eastern Monday through Thursday show, all about maintaining facilities for parks and recreation. Quite the elaborate system that goes into maintaining these facilities. Joseph has, 34 people that help you maintain everything that you've been assigned?
In a perfect world, yes, that would be within the bounds of our org chart. But right now we have some deficiencies. So right now we're operating at about 28 to 29, 28 or 29 right now.
So what happened? Are those people that just retired or got moved, laterally or up or whatever, and they just haven't been replaced yet?
Yes, I think it's just some attrition that's been developing. As you can expect, a lot of our workforce, primarily, I would like to say that we've been going through, and I'm a direct example of this, of my, I guess, demographic of age and such. But I would say around COVID, I think we mentioned this in our previous discussion, that it was a incentive and reasoning for a lot of our workforce, and I think it was subject to across the industry, to just say, hey, I'm eligible, we're going to look over our yields over the next few years and let's do the math. And so I think it's been started since around that time, but there's definitely an inception point. And again, with COVID, that was the personnel stance of it, but then the supply chain also inherently made all the materials that are required to do our jobs inherently that much more expensive. And so we had both of those elements just kind of met at a crossroads. And so everything has gotten more expensive. Our labor has gotten more expensive. And there is I would say, not so much of turnkey talent at that point what you're looking for, because we're looking at a new generation into this industry. And most individuals have operated a weed eater or a lawnmower, but there's a lot of technique and other nuances involved of going from a residential to a municipality sector. Excuse me, massive reflex is kind of kicking my butt a little bit right now.
That's all right.
But again, within the new president as well, there are stipulations within funding and how much the states are getting, and the states are how much they get into their municipalities and the tax rates and all of that stuff. So it's definitely there's many variables in play as to why that could be the case.
Yeah.
And we're just making the best with what we got and just trying to persevere. I don't know if there's any definite right answer to that, but I just want to take a look at all the variables that could be involved and polish or make recommendations within my capacity.
Yeah. I'm curious when you say, and obviously I've thought about this for probably approaching 6,000 hours because of my other podcast. I went into retirement, studied deeply about the monetary system and fiat world and banking. Um, and so I'm curious on your end, why do you think things, when you say things are getting more expensive, what do you think causes that?
Well, if it's not the inherent material, it's either going to be the labor or the service. And like we had mentioned, like we had discussed briefly on our last podcast, the availability and the pricing of blue collar trades, right? Because of how because of their specialty and the fact that they're not readily available as they once were. Oh, hey, just call so and so. He's a general handyman. This, that, and the other. Well, that industry is kind of pivoted, and a lot of those general handymans either have their own companies or they're working like they're aware of their self value, and so I would say trades and specialty labor has almost had an awareness of self value paired with um, the supply chain issues. I don't want to misspeak and let my ignorance do the talking, but again, I sourcing materials, steel, raw components, wood, steel, ores, copper, wires, things of that nature, and especially if it's not being sourced in America and it's overseas, or um, the parent companies of the industries of who we do business with, let's say, for instance, are irrigation companies like Rainbird or the PVC suppliers. Again, they have to source the components to then meld and melt and get to the PVC. Rainbird has to make those technology improvements for their controllers, smart chips, right? Everything is smart these days. Well,
Right.
at the forefront within COVID, the semiconductors was production was an issue, and the chips was a critical issue. So even car makers like Ford at the time, their temporary measure solution was to then continue production, but without automatic. Because I drive a Ford, but without the automatic cutoff when you're at a red light, because that was necessary of X amount of superconductor chips or semiconductor chips for that. I again, I don't think that there's any direct attribute for that, but I do think that greed is one of them as well. Um, and it's just if things just because I would find it very hard if to be successful if your labor is charging you X amount, even though
Right.
your materials are I mean are not within your overhead. Your staff is now demanding or expecting X amount of money, which may be eating up within your materials cost. What's the one way that we can get around that? Right? Is upcharge within the materials, and you can break even from your labor. And so there's just a multitude of variables, I think, that folks want to break even, but at the same time, we have so many algorithms and we have so many programs that it's all to make a profit.
Mm.
And I'm speaking from the outside of the public sector and looking into Fortune 500 companies where, like the president of Nestle is talking about, hey, we need to control like the entire supply of water, right? Whether he wants to make sure it's clean or wants to make sure he can bottle it to sell it at $8 at
Right.
an airport. So I want to say it's we as humans, I feel like we've constantly seen the need for improvement to a point where the greed is now just is one main causation for that, in my opinion.
Yeah. One thing I'm starting to wrap my head around is everything should be getting cheaper and cheaper. Technological advances, and even technological advances aside, I don't know a human among us that does not look to do more with less, that looks to do a 2-hour job in an hour, that if they see a buy one get one free sale and it's the exact same product, they don't get a little excited because now their money can buy a little more.
Exactly.
And I think we're all, since the beginning of our species, have constantly been forcing the sellers to do a little bit more than before, and because they win our business.
Hmm.
Um, and so I think the natural state of the economy is deflationary. Things I think are getting cheaper and cheaper and cheaper. I can't think of one thing out there that you can buy at a store that hasn't gotten cheaper to produce just by supply chain efficiencies. I mean, if you look at the 18 wheelers 50 years ago compared to today, the streamline of automation that has driven massive efficiencies. Um, and so that's why I've kind of looked at the debasement of our currency through
Yeah.
constant print, and I'm like, the system is built to steal efficiencies away from us through constant debasement of our currency. And because I know that just since when I was running businesses, when I started to today, I can do so much more with so few man hours because of
Yeah.
automation and
Yep.
because how we communicate. And I remember when I was running an electrical contracting company, I was very limited as who I could serve. But then once the explosion of the internet, now I can serve the entire nation
Hmm.
um, with hardly any effort compared to the national organizations and what they used to be able to take. Now, the only thing I do see that I think could be an actual supply and demand issue is there seems to be a shrinking supply of skilled labor.
Hmm.
Now that's a supply and demand problem.
Truly, absolutely. And what is the answer? Right? Like
Mm.
vocational schools, like how are you going to cultivate that the other end of the talent pipeline? Or where are you going to source that from?
Robotics.
That's
It's all coming out of humanoid robotics. I
he
think
said,
this
Mr. Craig said it, not me. Just kidding. You're
100%.
right.
That is this because entrepreneurs will crack the code on humanoid robots.
Yep.
The bounty is the biggest bounty on earth. There is no larger bounty, the per capita part of the equation of a GDP. It's how much production per person. And so if the per person part of the equation is deleted due to humanoid robotics, then there is no larger reward for an entrepreneur. The entrepreneur that can essentially print labor.
Yeah.
You think about how long it takes for human labor to develop. It takes two parents to have a child, to raise it for 20 years. Then you have to train it. And then the master electrician, usually you're not getting those for 30 years.
Hmm.
And so you got 30 years to train a master electrician, whereas the second it comes off the assembly line, it's a master electrician. You literally just upload the software.
Yeah.
Um, and it's like how long did it take to train a graphics designer the old-fashioned way versus what are we seeing right now, real time on the screen when we say, make me a logo that looks like this and looks like this, and all it literally in seconds, this graphic
Absolutely.
designer is just unlimited labor.
Without some of the pioneers in graphic design where they say, well, hey, I spent 6 months to a year learning this program. Well, that program is now obsolete. You have to learn this. So, similar to coding, right? Well, Python, this is now this isn't the forefront winner anymore. You have to forget that and learn this and this and that.
Yeah.
So just the constant adaptation from the for humans into that pioneer industry, whereas GPT -40, whatever the negative of it, hey, render me a caricature of myself as a Studio Ghibli character. Look at
Yeah.
that, right? And even art is being kind of like relegated into something where it's a niche where it takes away. I read something that was kind of powerful to me where it's the over availability of something similar to the animation style of Studio Ghibli waters it down completely because it's not special anymore. And those people, those artists, their films take years to develop because they're hand drawn and such. And so,
Mhm.
as 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 much as that is, it's a cool party feature or so to share. At the same time, what are we doing to ourselves in terms of like our in our cerebral processes of, oh well, this is special, this is art, like
Mhm.
with the oh, I think my computer, I just haven't moved my mouse in a little bit, apologize, sorry. We're
Yeah.
going to sleep. Okay, we're back.
Yeah.
um but would the Mona Lisa be as revered today if it wasn't something that we had all learned when we were children at this point?
Yeah, I think the $1,000 trillion engineering feat is literally from the elbow up.
Hmm.
That as the engineers start to replicate this dexterity in the hand, then it's literally just uploading a blueprint to a nice home that was maybe built in Paris or somewhere, and just say, yeah, put those pallets of materials in the shape of that home.
Well, heck, I mean, they 3D print homes, and there's
Right,
capabilities of that. So
right,
there's it's not too far off, whether it's cybernetic labor or if it's within automation and
yeah.
3D printing or so. And hey, all of these components get printed off. Here's your joist. Here's your roof. Here's your frame. There you go.
Yeah, but there's something to be said about the form factor. So it's like you could come up with, many modes of transportation, but the four-wheeled vehicles are the form factor that the roads are built for.
Yeah.
And so, yes, a tank can travel across roads, but it's gonna.
That is a great point. It's kind of like how you had said that, how you referenced Bitcoin being like the baseline. What was the word that you had said? Like it's built for it, not so much.
Yeah, it's built for the new ecosystem.
Yes,
It
yes, yes,
it's
yes.
it's
I think you.
yeah.
Sorry, this thunder is going crazy, but um, I forgot what you had said about it, but it struck me deeply just because it was um, referenced as just the difference between Bitcoin and everything else is because it is the rules to the game. It is the ecosystem versus it's a fork, and then like you're saying within the road and the car
Yeah.
situation.
Yeah, it's kinda like, all the appliances that you buy to plug in your kitchen,
Hmm.
they are designed for an electrified world.
There we
And
go.
so, imagine you brought all of your electrical appliances back 500 years ago. What are you gonna do with them? Like, they're literally useless. You cannot plug them in. There's electricity has not the world's not been electrified. And so
Right.
similar to how Bitcoin is for the digital it's money for the digital world, then AI needs a digital money that does not need a soul. So right now, walk into a bank as a robot and ask for a bank account. It's illegal. They literally can't give it to you. But Bitcoin doesn't care.
Yeah.
It's not checking to make sure you're human. And so as machines start to trade value for value, Bitcoin is the money they will use because it moves at the speed of light. It doesn't ask for your birth certificate or your, you know, gender or your nationality. It literally just processes the transaction.
Yeah.
Doesn't care. It's just like a math equation. And so the fiat world cannot do business in this digital world like Bitcoin can. So it's kind of like I kind of liken it to electricity versus, back in the days when you lit a home by fire. These appliances don't work 500 years ago because there's no grid to plug them into. Um, okay, but I could literally talk about Bitcoin for about 600 hours straight, um, which I have.
Yes, sir.
Um, but I wanted to get back into when we left, we were talking about these playgrounds and what it takes to maintain a community center. And I wanted to dig a little deeper into just the system and the method of the madness because as an outsider looking in, even though I've been to community centers and I was, did the electrical component of it with some of the companies that I ran, um, all I see was you take out the trash and the grass gets cut. What's the big deal here? And as you started to pull back the layers, I'm like, oh my gosh, there are some
Absolutely.
nighttime activities that we need to clean up the playgrounds from, and that's just one component. So
Yes.
maybe
Yes, yes, yes. Well, I wanted to just briefly say about, at least within the organization that I'm with now, because we
Mhm,
have over 42 rec centers. My involvement in the maintenance of those centers simply is the outside of the building.
mhm,
External, I might route some solutions, whether there's some gutter issues or just building maintenance issues from the external, and
mhm,
everything within the park setting as well. Now, however, I previously worked in an agency where we only had one rec center, and due to the nature of my role, uh, seen me facilitate and assist with a number of internal facility repairs. And I can go into a little bit more detail there because I'm sure it's the same in respect
mhm.
to my current organization. I just didn't want to misspeak or so.
Yeah.
Um, so naturally, within rec centers, it is a destination for recreation and wellness, right? Typically, there's going to be instructors, there's going to be youth activities and teen activities and adult activities. However, cities use those spaces as well as so whether they don't have to necessarily have to spend to book a conference room somewhere or anything of that nature. So
Mhm.
we've there has been preparations for voting, elections, health fairs, and everything of that nature. So whenever we do have a large scale event there, we're double checking the baseboards, making sure that any visual aesthetics are touched up, right? Hole
Mhm.
may not be a deliberate hole in the drywall, but because of the kids were running around, they may have pushed the door too hard. Well, the door stop is damaged, which caused the handle to hit the inside of the wall. So things of that nature, you want to facilitate those repairs. The restrooms, if the toilets were leaking or anything of that nature, again, um, light vandalism from, again, kids being kids. They may graffiti the insides of the stalls, things of that nature. You're going to go ahead and dispatch your team or route for trade repairs. We had a plumbing company that was really good to us, and they were very prompt all of the time. We had a restroom that was external, but the kids liked to use it because it had a lock on it, and
Mhm.
you could, I mean, imagine what kind of activities they would like to use to take in a confined space with a group of three or four of their friends and go to within school. So that,
Mm.
and I guess whatever they were smoking at the time made them want to take all the fixtures off the restrooms and break the mirrors and take the paper towel dispenser off the wall, and so again, rinse and repeat. So it's a little bit different as far as your ground maintenance concerns within a typical park setting, but it's just like a all components of within that rec center you're going to be responsible for, so to speak.
Right.
I wasn't employed when they had this issue, but I quickly found out about it, where the emergency fire suppression system, they didn't have heat tape on them in an exposed part of their storage area. So they were naturally, I mean, it froze outside for a week straight, I think back in 21 or 22. And the fire suppression system wasn't heated. So what happened to the pipes? They bursted, and the entire first floor flooded out of,
Oh, wow.
of the center there. And so you're gonna call water remediation, mold remediation, and start facilitating repairs on getting the walls fixed and uh, making sure that that fire suppression system does get repaired, and a contingency plan is put into place, whether it's, hey, we need to cover up this part of the roof, we need to take off this layer, put in insulation or something along those lines, so that way we can't stop going through these unfortunate things, but if we do our jobs right, we can hopefully mitigate it from happening again.
Yeah.
Um, and I'm just trying to go through the gambit in my head as far as
Yeah.
the number of
Well,
things.
I wanted to ask about, can you explain your team's skill set and talent? Like if you've got, say, 28 people, how many of them are dedicated to, being on a lawnmower, being on a weed eater, being on a trash pickup, being on an inspection? Uh,
Absolutely. I would say like my provided number earlier was about 28.
mhm,
So I have two supervisors that report to me, and we it's somewhat I slice down the middle of our operations, right? And because I'm responsible for 64 plus parks, just mowing and taking care of those grounds is going to be a pretty stark ask. So one
mhm,
side of our operations is kind of titled our strike teams, and um, it is four. I have four teams, four strike teams, and it need to be anywhere from 3 to 4 members per. So effectively 16 on a best case scenario plus their supervisor, so 17.
yeah.
Um, so that I'm blessed. I'm going to be honest, and I don't know if my team probably will not see me say these words, but I am completely blessed to have been hired and get to and fortunate to work with them because these a lot of these guys are kind of cut from the cloth that they don't make anymore, uh,
Mm,
from the old school. And there's I've been in this industry since 2013, and even just having some um, casual conversations with these guys. I mean, I always find myself learning different techniques or just different things of that nature, and so. I couldn't be any happier to have them. Now, the
mm,
other side of my operation is somewhat labeled trades, and it's we have a warehouse and environmental that's covered into that role. Sorry, it's just straining. We have a pesticide applicator, irrigation, amenities, graffiti, and signage because we're installing trash cans, picnic tables, benches, things of that nature. Removing graffiti. Um, Playgrounds has about 2 members and such. So it's kind of broken into digestible. Um, the functions are broken up to where they're digestible within respects to our park number of parks and all of our functions we have to do.
mm. How many playgrounds do y'all maintain of
Ooh,
this?
you're putting me on the spot. I want to say 36, 37, but we also have a partnership with DISD. It's called our Cool School program, and that essentially allowed them to build playgrounds in footprints of existing DISD schools, but in a way that they're securing it to for the kids during the hours of school, and then it's open to the public afterwards. So we have our playgrounds within our own parks, and then we have about four of those cool school playgrounds that we go and service playgrounds at a DISD school.
Hmm. And so what are the what's the cadence that you want that playgrounds need? Maybe attention as far as not just cleanup, but repair or maintenance.
Well, in a best case scenario, repairs to playgrounds should not happen too often.
Mm,
They are a significant investment for any community, and if properly utilized and maintained, it can be a sound investment for a good amount of time,
mm,
and everything should hold up. However, if maintenance is lacking and usage of the playgrounds is just not apt, well, it may not have as viable of a lifespan as it could have. And typically, general maintenance. Let's bear with me. It's raining. Hey, bear with
yeah,
me.
I think that rain is heading my way.
Oh
I've
my
heard
gosh.
severe stuff is coming towards Louisiana. It's probably hitting Texas first.
It is, and you know what? It is fantastic. So it's going to be great. And we're going to sleep again. So let's imagine a playground where there's nothing broken. There's no immediate need for safety concerns. Our playground staff member will generally walk the playground, observe fall zone material if it needs to be raked out, because some of the maintenance components of that is going to be redistributing that fall zone material into areas where they need to be. Because I was a kid, I played on pea gravel playgrounds and I threw them at people. So I know
Right.
the kids throw the 5 bar and the wood chips at each other. When you're on a swing, you're really taking those deep digs into it, and so you're really kicking that out and exposing the matting underneath swings, so essentially. So that is, it's more of a redistributing, bringing everything back to where it needs to be, and really observing if we've lost material there, and if we've lost material to a significant extent, then we'll have to order and replenish that fall zone material. We'll obviously service the park for trash, litter, water bottles, plastics, things of that nature. Anything that they find, we're going to go ahead and service that. We'll pull for weed growth because we have an organic standpoint for playgrounds, and so crabgrass and Bermuda grass growing in there, and within the large number of what we have, we're going to try to treat it organically. But if that doesn't work, well, guess what? Good old manual extraction is going to be what we have to do. So
Right.
removing some weeds, sanitizing and cleaning the playground components, just giving it a good wipe down, and just essentially giving a visual check to see if we're missing any bolts or screws, or and obviously, trying to give it a good one-off with your fingers and such to see if there's any play there, adjust them, tighten them to specification, and keep moving. And we have a correlating inspection sheet, that so it's a regimen, so to speak.
And so you said you have 2 guys dedicated to roughly managing all the playgrounds?
I have 2 on paper, but I only have 1 right now.
Uh,
So
the paper guy's not working as hard as the in-person guy then.
yeah, and I mean, it's neither here nor there, right?
Yeah.
But our playground, and it's Miss Patricia Aguilar, so we got to put some respect on it, her, and she's actually retiring this year, so she's been fantastic. But and Patricia does, she definitely has a great level of TLC, and gives our playgrounds a great amount of attention.
Now, do y'all actually just how much on the job training do y'all get, or do y'all kind of look for people with experience? How does that work as far as training your people?
Training, we definitely want to enrich as much as we can internally. However, there are training programs and resources that we do designate and send staff to as department funding does permit. I did Hiring staff with previous experience is the cherry on top, but that doesn't necessarily mean that it's going to be directly applicable to what we do. So I definitely gauge that and see how similar park systems or green experience, a green space experience that individual has. Is it applicable? Is it going to be a good fit? And most of the time it is, but I just have to give that outlier and say that sometimes it's not.
Yeah.
But we do, especially for playgrounds, there are national programs that we can send them to, and then even some players in the state level, like at our TRAPS, our Texas Recreation and Parks Society events, they have some refreshers of safety seminars and things of that nature that I try to send my playground folks to, and just give them that refreshment. A lot of the time they already know that information, but whether you hear it presented in a different way, or you have a new visual to it, it just kind of fires up some that passion once again, and puts it front of mind again. Pesticides, yes, we also do send for continual training and knowledge on there. That is you kind of need a license to apply them for us, and so there is a CEU contingent that they have to renew them on their own every year. So we do send them for that, to make sure that they're practicing the best management practices and being safe, and just following all the guidelines. And again, that knowledge is more than likely ingrained in these employees, but this is just to put that front of mind once again for them.
Right. Now, when it comes to spraying pesticides and all that, is there anything changing in this world as far as efficiencies or any new trends when it comes to all the chemicals that y'all have to buy?
Well, as far as the industry goes, I would say, so I'll give you like my opinion on industry versus what we kind of have going on right now.
Yeah.
Like you had said, just the robotics and the automation is just something that it started off with mowers, but now we're seeing drone sprayers in even in agricultural settings, which if it can make it in the agricultural setting, it's definitely got a spot within the green sector and in local municipalities. I don't know the tank size and how that works, but if they're able to then go, I think it was a 5 gallon tank or a 3 gallon tank, but I mean, it works in the agricultural industry.
Right.
And as advances happen, flight duration may increase, tank payload may increase, and then we could be seeing some yields for us. But as far as internally goes, let's go back to equipment, right? And the cost of equipment has just so substantially increased in the last 5 to 10 years that has been a challenge. We've been primarily operating with liquid sprayers and specifically multi-pros, but the multi-pros, like a brand new piece of equipment, is very costly now in comparison to what it was then. And so managing that, the cost of liquid pesticides versus granules is also very significant. And so you were just trying to effectively strategize the future and seeing what's going to be the best usage of our staff's time and obviously our taxpayers' resources. In comparison to I know for sure our large area mowers. We have many Toros in our fleet. This is not paid advertisement for you, Toro, but kidding.
Not yet. We'll get them on there.
Not yet, but we are curious, and just send a DM. Just kidding, but Toro 5910 is really our big guns, so to speak. And when I started in the department in 2013, I want to say that those units were going for 87,000 or almost 90,000. Those same mowers are going for about $160,000 now.
Oh my gosh.
And so the baby version of it, which was a 4,000, it has a smaller cutting deck. That was even then a deal in 2013 when they were going for about 60. Well, now those are about 120. And so it's
how long did they last?
Well, I'm glad you asked. I can ask the Toro, if you're here listening, how long do I would say naturally that just like my comparison with the playgrounds, if the operators are taking care of this piece of equipment and it's being maintained in a timely fashion and to the nines, they can last a good amount of time. Supply chain issues with parts does come into play. Cost of those parts comes into play, that's when some of those our theories about blue collar and some of those supply chains. Those are where it's starting to rear its kind of head and influencing just the commerce options and what do we have on our in front of us.
Yeah.
So it's I would say you definitely could expect at least 10 years out of a unit like that. But it is getting and depends on the terrain, right? And having over 400 plus parks, some of them feature terrain that is better than others. And so having those considerations in place and just our mechanic shop does a damn good job, but I think we only have about 7 mechanics or so for our entire fleet. So there's some of it is just the price of doing business, and we just got to keep on rolling.
And how much and I have a little bit of window into this because I used to maintain fleets of trucks and trailers and men and machines and stuff, and maybe help everyone understand how many pieces of equipment, counting trailers, trucks, and mowers and spreaders and sprayers and stuff, do you have?
Oh boy. Specifically to my facility,
Hmm.
I'll give you an estimation, an approximate. I would say fleet trucks, mowers, hand tools, and all of that, well over 150 to 200 pieces, and that's trailers and tractors and everything included.
That's a lot of tires.
Oh, absolutely. Well, yes, 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 yes. Well, at least 200 tires, absolutely.
Yeah.
I have a inventory of dated equipment too that I'm not gonna throw it away. I'm gonna repair it, but I also have some stuff from like our Samuel Farm Trust, like stored there. So it's kind of there is no there is no rubber on these tires, sir. It's straight up agricultural work, and so that's kind
Mhm.
of cool to see. But you multiply that times six at least for the maintenance plus our specialty shops, and that is a lot of tires. that's
Yeah.
that's a lot that's a lot to try to keep in stock, and that's a lot to dispatch for a road call, because it just takes a small nail to ruin a day, whether it's
Right.
a trailer or a mower. And so again, that's hats off to our auto shop team, and just how they're able to just pivot and dispatch, and really just at the end of the day make sure that our guys are able to get back to our shop safely.
Yeah, because we always had some piece of equipment that broke that day, or definitely several that week. So,
Mm.
all things in a perfect world, all your equipment works, all your tires work, all your engines work, all your mechanisms work perfectly, and then you roughly figure out how quickly you can do a task. But rarely is the case where your one piece of equipment is not just taking the day off,
It's,
and then
and,
that
and
whole crew.
you usually get that call on Friday around 1:30 or 2 o'clock, right? Everything. We've had a tremendous week. The equipment's been so good to us. Then a Friday at 1:30, oh, hey, guess what? The the timing belt broke, or the wing can't go up now, and I can't push it up and put it for transport. Serenity now, as a good old saying I learned from Seinfeld.
That's right. Um, yeah, so there is a tremendous amount of maybe what is the unforeseen problem workload for
What do
you?
you mean by that?
Just like a trailer having a flat, or a truck having a flat, or you know, I don't even know if we want to count a department saying, "Hey, I've got something you really need to take care of right now. Who can you pull off of this and go do this kind of stuff?" But
I would
maybe,
I would say that would be more like just the stuff that I can't plan for, because in respects to how long I've been with this organization,
mhm,
there's just certain things that you come to expect. I mean, whether or not they happen or in a day's work, right? It's so what, I was wrong, but I think I've seen quite enough to know how to react to whatever it is that it's not going to ruin my day. And at the end of the day, if we have to pivot and adjust, there's for a good reason, and we punt on what we have to punt on, and we'll have to address what we have to address. I would say, I mean, just let's see here, because mm, the one thing that I guess would upset me is that, but again, you can't really do anything about it, is that you make preparations for a project or an event or anything like that, and then it gets canceled, right? And then
oh
so whether it's like you're peaking towards a week, right? And so you have a week's worth of labor, um, and equipment use on this respective project, and again, the opportunity cost of that was to not do anything else that you wanted to do, right?
yeah.
Only for it to get canceled. And um, so but it to me is just well, dang, we could have done this and this more than anything. But
Right.
again, we zip it up and we unzip it back on Monday, and then we'll start it off again. And a lot
Yeah.
of those things, it's beyond my control, it's beyond my staff's control and my leadership's control. And so hey, there's gonna be times like that in public service. So,
Mm,
and hey, our service just not was not needed for that today, right?
yeah.
And it just makes it much more digestible for me thinking of it that way.
Yeah. Now, one thing I wanted to save some time of the show for was just to talk about, the managerial workload. You said you've got what, two team leaders or supervisors and yourself.
Mhm.
Maybe let's pull the curtain back into, okay, what does their day to day look like? Both the two men that are working underneath you, and then yours as well.
So for my supervisors, they'll their I would say their first hour of the day is going to look the same, and that's going to be coming into the office, greeting staff just like mine is, and then providing work detail if there's any what routine stuff that they knew that they had on their plate, if there's going to be any emphasis of focus. My strike teams might tell his staff member, "Hey, I need you to bring some handheld pruners to get this, and this because when I was there, I saw this, and this." Okay, well, they'll keep that front of mind and go ahead and implement that within their service. Or, hey, we had a service request. I know I needed you to do this, and service requests are submitted from our citizens or internally, and that could report a variety of concerns. A tree is down. This park doesn't have a liner in the trash can. Things of that nature. So when we do get service requests, we have a threshold of a response time. It's called an SLA time, and so those kind of take priority once we do receive one from our daily operational things. It's something that we just try to weave into the day if it's not going to be too time costly there. So we'll definitely make sure we address those priorities within our normal operational things, um, and then from there their staff will go off, and then I'll just start asking them, hey, where are we at with this, where are we at with this, and again just kind of probing them to keep other projects and other procurement options that we have to do front of mind for them, and just kind of
Mhm.
guiding them along. Hey, like for instance, Monday we had a corporate event at one of my parks, and we had about 15 to 20 people coming on in. And so some of the last week's work detail for my two guys was, hey, I met with the group, this and this. This is what I want to have them do. So I need you go ahead and order this amount of dirt. Go ahead and get this edge banding. Go ahead and do this, and this, and let them act accordingly, right? And then follow back in. Is there any paths I need to clear? I mean, are we all good? And then Monday came about. We had our event, and we were all good. Um, so it's normal days for them is just kind of making sure that our stocks are current, our equipment's once their teams are gone, I should say. Our stocks current, our equipment our repairs are scheduled, right? Because they gotta let me know from their staff what they report in, and then we send that in. They'll do park inspections, which we have to go by and inspect the quality of our parks, because, like I said, I have 64 plus. It may be a while since that specific supervisor has laid eyes on that property, and so that is a number of responsibilities as well, just so that they can in turn make the necessary reports, talk to their team. Hey, you're going to be out here changing this trash can. Well, I need you to go ahead and bring a pet waste station, or whatever the case may be. Um, we also have a number of meetings just kind of peppered in throughout, whether it's I set them, a vendor sets them. We meet with the playground vendor here to discuss possible options of exchanging, or we meet with an irrigation contractor because we're kind of overextended and we're going to use our guy for this repair, but we need this repair. And so things of that nature. My day, specifically, like I said, I meet with them. I try to just I try to forecast as much as I can and do the legwork within that. Inform my stakeholders, inform my management team, and do my inspections. I definitely have I definitely have plans for specific parks and what I'd like to do there. And so it's just a matter of keeping that up, managing the budget of my district's budget, making sure that we can pay the bills. Let's see here. The maintenance plans, the turf management plans, and just for me, it's just all in a day's work. And I might, the customer service aspect. Sorry about that. We're going back to sleep. Just gotta wake it back up. Okay. Responding to a number of emails to my internal, external customers because anyone in the city, different departments, even the same departments, could ask me for a service, so to speak. And so just making sure that we touch base, we inform them what we can and can't do, and we just we just kind of keep on rolling. I would say I don't have a defined structure, but it's just I have to make sure that all of these responsibilities are and tasks are situated appropriately, and inform my my stakeholders and my bosses over specific council updates, park board updates, things of that nature, and making sure that I'm pivoting and keeping everybody informed as to what's going on in my area, so to speak.
Now, what would you say are some of the skill sets or traits of a manager that kind of have served you well, or that you'd want to have if you're going to be put in a position to, do what you do?
Well, I would first want to give a qualifying statement and say that I think anybody can be successful in this role, and it's just a matter of your commitment, your passion, and just just what you want to put into it. And I definitely feel that depending on your level of effort into that is going to be your return of your yield. Mm-hmm. Now, specifically to your question, I took a Gallup quiz a few years ago, and I always knew my tendencies, and I knew kind of what kind of person I was, but it wasn't until I took that Gallup test that I wouldn't say I backed away from it, but I feel like I really owned it at that point, because the top 5 strengths that they gave me, I felt like it was indisputable on my end, and it was sobering to see them. So, and to say sharing that, I think my number 1 was activation or individualization, and activation and context and like communication, and I'm forgetting the 5th.
What does activation mean? How are they using that word in that context?
I'm glad you asked, because I do have it on my desktop here. So just give me 1 second.
We're picking apart what makes a good manager in Parks and Rec.
Well, this is, honestly, because it's you have to manage people before you can even get into your specific industry, and right. And the more that you can kind of craft your nuance and approach and your interaction on how of your technique, that's everything. Mm-hmm. Give me 1 second. This was my staff members result, because I made my guys take it. 1 second.
You made everybody on your team take it?
Yes. So I'm not sorry.
No, it's actually good to know thyself.
Exactly. So let's go here. Number 1 for me was individualization, and so I'll give you a brief overview of that. Essentially, people with strong individualization talents understand and they're intrigued by others' unique talents. Impatient with generalizations, they focus on the differences among the individuals. So aces in their places. They need to do, you got to do this, you got to do this, because it's more apt for their skill set and such.
So much like maybe a football team, you wouldn't send the largest guy to go sprint down the field as fast as you can and catch the ball. Maybe put him.
He's not the kicker. The linebacker is not our kick returner.
Yeah, right.
Yeah, that's going to be a touchback. Timeout.
Right. Yeah, definitely. You want to assign people to their skill set as much as possible.
Absolutely. And now, I mean, you within an equitable approach and everything of that nature. But if you notice that somebody exceeds at something else, and there's not a emphasis of cross training or anything that you're robbing from somebody else, then it just makes
Mhm.
all the sense in the world to make sure that, hey, I'm
Yeah.
going to allow them to own this task.
Right.
Strategic thinking was number two. I think that's pretty self-explanatory.
Well,
Arranger
we
was
can touch on that a little. So what do you mean by strategic thinking?
Sure. It's just
Whatever you
people with
want.
strong strategic talents can sort through the clutter to find the best route. You can't teach the skill. It's a distinct way of thinking, a unique perspective on the world at large.
Mm,
So, noticing it once you, and I guess I can speak to that as far as, once you've seen a number of things in respects to this industry, all problems have a solution. It's just a matter of how far you want to backtrack to where it was broken, and
mhm,
what is the path of least resistance on how to fix it. Now,
mm.
is that fix gonna be? Are we gonna have to circle back to that in X amount of time, or is this fix going to is this going to alleviate the problem, so to speak? Can I get by with a Harbor Freight tool, or do I have to go buy a DeWalt? Right.
Right. Yep.
And again, so you just kind of improvise and adapt. One of my first bosses would always tell me that, Jeremy Wilson, improvise, overcome, and adapt, and that's what you do, because that, that's our job.
Right. Right. Yeah, makes sense.
Um, Arranger was number three, which arrangers are conductors. When faced with a complex situation involving many factors, people with arranging talents enjoy managing all of the variables, aligning and realigning them until they've arranged them in the most productive configuration possible. Yes.
Oh, I
And
like that. Wow, that's good. Say that one more time. I want to hear that again.
let's run it back. Arrangers are conductors. When faced with a complex situation involving many factors, people with strong arranger talents enjoy managing all of the variables, aligning and realigning them until they are sure they have arranged them in the most productive configuration possible.
Wow, that has got to be a superpower for a manager.
You
Um,
know, I like to embrace it
yeah,
for sure.
definitely, because it's almost like putting the puzzle together. They've got to be put together in the right order if you want the picture to reveal itself.
You can't put that there. That has edges, and that's a corner
That's
piece.
right. That's the clouds, obviously. This goes over here.
Jeez, man. Like I mentioned, activation. And essentially, it's when can we start is a recurring question for activators. People with strong activator talents are impatient for action. They may concede that analysis has its uses, or that debate and discussion can occasionally yield some valuable insights, but deep down they know that only action is real.
I love it. I
Me
love
too.
it. It's called an actionator?
Activator.
Activator.
Yes.
Activator.
And then,
Uh,
like, analysis paralysis, right? We've discussed this to the nth degree, and I don't think our theories are going to change too much, even if we talk another 10 hours about it. So
mhm.
this is our approach. Let's go ahead and crack this egg, and we'll see how the omelet turns out, and we'll adapt.
Yeah. Yeah, I've always been a big, proponent of let's get started, and we will figure out what we're doing on the path, because it's so hard to predict what you're gonna face, 10 days into a journey, before you've even started it. So, chances are you've packed wrong, you've prepared wrong, there's nothing you could have done to prepare for this.
The cold front
Uh,
came in. The weather
yeah,
guy didn't even know. I mean, absolutely. That was a very well said point on
yeah,
yours. And I don't think it's a matter of poor planning. It's just a matter. Because I'm sure that that's what some perception of that energy could come off as. But
mhm,
it's quite the opposite. It's a confidence in myself, and getting into a new room and learning how to navigate, and my team's ability to pivot on a dime. And
right,
so again, I feel like Not that those conversations aren't needed, especially if you're bringing new stakeholders into the forefront of things. But if you're regurgitating the same conversations within, the exact same people, I think it's best we just need to take action and see where we
Yeah.
go.
Yeah, because if you're going to get to version 10 of something, the best thing to do to get to version 10 is to do version 1 as fast as possible.
Yeah.
And then say, okay, what can we do better? And then so if you can tighten that feedback loop and iterate quickly and maybe have version 2 on day 2 versus, day 30, then you're at version 10 in 10 days. And you've got all the feedback from versions 1 through 9 that are existing in version 10 from real world experience, not just talking.
I mean, and how beautiful is that? Meanwhile, the jury's still deliberating on the first step of
Right.
execution. So,
That's right.
and last but not least, the fifth of the top strengths from that was context, and which would be perspective and background are important for people with strong context talents. They value the retrospective viewpoint because they believe that is where the answers lie, and they look back to understand the present.
Mm. Yeah, context is, I think that's where your wisdom is buried. That's where your experience comes in. That's where the master craftsmen just kind of know where to hit the machine. It starts working.
Do you think Fonzie knew exactly where to hit that jukebox, or
Yep.
did he have to go in there every single time to where it was
Right.
it was one with him? So
That's right.
but
Yeah.
I would say that those inherently do make me who I am, because I am I feel like I'm driven by all of that, not even at my workplace. But I do feel like those do allow me to be a very effective manager, and it does allow me to have genuine connections with my teams, and because I want to have them, and I want to um, have that level of flow with them, because if I feel like I don't have it, I know dang sure that they probably feel like they don't have it with me.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's it. One of my books up there is Sun Tzu's Art of War, and
Mhm.
one whole chapter is dedicated to knowing your team, knowing your team's capabilities. If a general knows what his team can do, it's a make or break deal. And so understanding the capacities, the strengths, the weaknesses, everything about your team is critical to being able to manage a good team. Where did you get that test from? Was that online thing or?
I got it through one of their books, but they do sell a digital code on their website. I think it's just gallupstrengths.com.
Mhm.
And so it's I think the top 5 test, which is provided with the book. Now, however, you can upgrade that and you can get a deeper dive in your top 20 skills. But I just did the one provided with the book for my 5.
I see.
But it was an invaluable experience, because when I had a good discussion with my team when they did it. But when I took it the first time, we did it in like a kind of like a retreat style setting,
Mhm.
and it was about 6 or 7 of my colleagues in the same room, and we all seen each other's strengths, and I guess the common denominators in those were broke into breakout groups, and we got to talk a little bit more about that and had the aha moments with each other,
Mhm.
and it was so great then that I really left that retreat with a different perspective of myself, like invaluable, like I say.
Mhm.
And I know my 2 guys, Francisco and Jose, they were just like, enough about this. Here we took it, and you know what? Some of their attitudes was reflective of their top 5 strengths, right? And I'm like, I'm not surprised that you had this. I'm not surprised you took it this way, because your number 1 strength is this. Look at that.
They're an activator. They're like, let's get working.
Exactly. But it's I definitely recommend that. to any aspiring leader or leader in general, and not even in respects to this green space
Yeah.
industry, because it that's essentially the blueprint of who you are. I mean,
Mm.
inherently, and you can build on that, or you can try to build a new foundation yourself. And there's a reason why people regurgitate like finding themselves, so to speak.
Yeah. Yeah. And then what was the name of the Gallup poll?
Gallup Strength Finder. Hold on. I can give me one quick second. Let me do this in a breakout, and I'll do this here. I'll drop it in the chat real quick. So it's the Clifton Strengths Online Talent Assessment from Gallup.com.
Hmm. Let's see if it comes up in the chat, and then I can present.
Dismiss, 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 and
All right, let's see how good I am at present screen share. Let's see. Here we go.
and of course, this isn't a plug either, but you can get the book on Amazon, which also has the promo code, and you can redeem it, and then you're allowed to. But that's the 34 strengths. Like that's the
34 million people finding their own workplace advisor. Yeah, this is pretty good. Maybe we can find an affiliate link. They can be a sponsor of the program.
I mean, I like where your head's at. I mean, they can. I mean, Toro, Clifton Strengths.
That
We
way,
can.
it's not just my project.
No, let's go to the greens industry training events. Let's go to all of those. Come on, we got to enrich the leaders of tomorrow. And what better way to do that by giving them a jump off point within the Clifton Strengths Gallup?
Yep. Good stuff.
No, thank you for asking me those questions. Like, I obviously I love talking about that sort of stuff, because I feel like it's so important to really maximize your level of leadership, and to get the most out of that role.
Mhm.
I don't think people necessarily understand how taxing it can be if you're doing it the right way, in my opinion.
Mhm.
I feel like people overtly delegate things now, which in turn, yes, it's preparing them to be self-sufficient and able to fish on their own. But um, to me, that there's something else in there, just the follow up and being present with them. Of course, I'm going to allow them to do their job, right? Because I can't do everything. And this is your
Right.
platform. This is your platform to own. But it's incumbent upon me to make sure that you're going to be there standing as tall as you can on your platform and being as effective as you can.
Yeah.
And so and I just have to give you I just have to extend my appreciation there.
Yeah. Well, thank you. And tomorrow we have your buddy Daniel Schaefer. Is that right?
Yes.
He's coming on the show tomorrow.
Daniel is some of the best you'll find in this park systems in Texas. Mr. Burleson himself. Daniel, if you ever want to come up around the ways and join us in this Toro Gallup initiative, come on.
That's it. We'll have all the maintenance professionals that come on the show take this test and show the results and see if we can find a common thread.
I think that's a damn good idea.
There we go.
I think that is a damn good idea. Well, I definitely will be catching tomorrow's episode with Daniel, and it's thank you again for having me today. It's been a blast.
Yeah, thank you for coming on the show today, and we'll have to do this again as we build out the facilities maintenance show for Parks and Rec. Really appreciate your time.
Cheers, sir. And you just let me know. My DMs are open, and my schedule can be as available as it needs to be.
Fantastic. Well, thank you for your time, and thank you for your contribution to this awesome Parks and Rec system.
My pleasure, sir. Take care and have a great day.
You too. Thank you, Joseph.
Mm-hmm.
Bye. All right. Another great edition for the daily Parks and Rec show, Facilities Maintenance Edition, 10:30 a.m. Eastern, Monday through Thursday. We've got about a 10-minute break before we interview our next guest in the Daniel Hernandez for the leaders in Parks and Rec. So we're going to take a quick break, and then we'll be right back for Leaders in Parks and Rec featuring Daniel Hernandez. Have a great day. A great 10 minutes. I'll be right back. Right back. The future of parks and recreation is here, and it starts with you. Welcome back to the Daily Parks and Recreation Show, where we bring you the latest insights, trends, and conversations shaping the world of parks and recreation. Today, we're diving into something that's shaping the future of our industry, young professional networks, or YPN. If you love your job and love the parks and recreation community and are looking to connect with the next generation of leaders, this episode is for you. YPN is where driven, passionate professionals come together to connect, grow, and make a real impact. It's not just about networking, it's about building the future of our communities. Why join YPN? Career growth and mentorship. Learn from the best in the industry. Innovative ideas and collaboration. Be part of the next big movement. Leadership development. Take charge, make decisions, and create change. Whether you're just starting out or looking to take your career to the next level, YPN is your gateway to success. From exclusive networking opportunities to cutting-edge industry insights, this is where you build your legacy. Because the future of parks and recreation starts with you.